sons, baby. We back, y'all. This is Anna's Historical Book Club. This is DJ Bro.
Yep, we're back. Here we are. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about some gender issues, transgender, gender, all of that, and so that brings us to Hungary, where the Orbanator, Viktor Orban, the government has issued a decree that prohibits gender studies courses and so it dropped the subject has been dropped from a list of master's degree program entitled to official accreditation and financial support. So the Central European University in Budapest has threatened to move most of its teaching to Vienna if Hungary's government fails to remove legal obstacles to its academic freedom. So, I mean, that's just bad. I mean, it's just the government, he's a bad dude. I mean, the government should not be able to take control over academic subjects. It's very scary. I mean, that is what dictators do. They silence people, and they try and stop learning. And gender studies programs are important. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, there's so much that isn't understood. I think it's. I think what we're seeing now, some of the stuff we're seeing now, the adjustments that things could just look that things will be very different again in 20 years. But we need to keep the universities open and keep people researching and writing and talking. The founder of the Central European University is funded from the United States. It was founded by it's registered in the U.S. when it was founded by George Soros, and his foundation has said that it's closing its office in Hungary. His office is called the Open Society Foundation, which funds non-governmental organizations. It says it will move its operation to the German capital, Berlin. Well, I don't approve. I don't think that's good. I think they should stay. I think they should stay and fight. And stay and fight, and stay stay to support, to help all the people that can't leave. That's what I think they should do. But Mr. Soros is okay. So just a refresher course. Viktor Orban has taxes non-governmental organizations that help refugees. He fines people for helping refugees, and he has now banned. Bans habitual residence in a public space and empowers police to order homeless people to move into shelters or face jail. If a homeless person disobeys police orders to move off the streets 3 times within a 90-day period, the police can detain them and destroy their personal belongings.
Wow.
Yeah. That does not help. People find homes. And the reason that in the U.S., or one of the reasons that people not going to shelters or refusing to go to shelters is a problem. And one of the reasons sometimes is because they can't take their pets. And that's something that is being worked on more in shelters, is having people be able to bring their pets. Some shelters require people to be off drugs, and if people are addicted to drugs, they don't want to move into a shelter. There's that. And then there's people, there's a name for it. Then there's people who are mentally ill and not able to make healthy decisions for themselves. So those are reasons that people don't go into shelters, and it's not helped by criminalizing them. So, yeah, we don't like Orban. Bad dude. And yeah, the European Union was planning to had issued decrees and had looked at, the European Union was looking at sanctioning Orban. Last we talked about him, but I don't know what is going on with that. So, okay, Hungary, we are just, we're just not happy. We're just not happy with you. We're really not happy. Okay, so remember all those people waiting in line for gas in Zimbabwe?
Yes.
They're still waiting.
Wow.
Sucks. Zimbabwe will plunge further into economic crisis unless international lenders provide aid to the heavily indebted former British colony. Senior officials from the ZANU-PF ruling party have said. In recent days, some vital commodities have become scarce, with motorists in Harare, the capital, spending a night in their cars in queues outside petrol stations. Supermarkets rationing purchases or shutting entirely, and chemists unable to provide some basic medicines. Food prices have soared. The immediate cause of the crisis was the introduction of a new tax on electronic transactions. So that means all transactions. We were talking about that last time. Like anything you pay for your bank card with.
Wow.
So, yeah. And meanwhile, like, what the hell? How can you, like, wait in your car for a day? What about, like, going to work? And
right.
Just
well, that's just going to have to...
Very
I don't know how you can do that, because you can't... Man, woo, that's just bad all the way around.
Yeah.
So what about, like, the corporations? I mean, when they have to get gas...
Well, they probably can I'm sure they have...
they probably give them the gas, huh?
Or I'm sure they can, like, buy somebody off. Yeah. I'm sure they can. So, okay, so that's what's happening in Zimbabwe, but other than that, things have been peaceful. Nothing. No reports of anything bad happening to members of the opposition. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
Nice.
We like to hear that. And in Syria, last we spoke, last time we were here, there was a deadline to establish a demilitarized zone in Idlib, the last rebel-held province in Syria. But so a lot of fighters were withdrawn, but the deadline is passed, and a lot of them are still there. No surprise. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I've been watching interviews with different leaders, and I don't know. I was watching an interview with one of the foreign ministers of I don't know, of Saudi Arabia, and it was about why Saudi Arabia was supporting rebels in Syria, was supporting people that wanted to choose their own president in Syria, but wouldn't allow any of that in Saudi Arabia. And then the interviewer, Mehdi Hassan, said, and he's just so good, because the foreign minister was saying, like, everybody, well, people in Saudi Arabia are fine with how things are, and he's just asked them, and the journalist said he can't, because you're forbidden to talk to people in Saudi Arabia.
Woo.
So speaking of Saudi Arabia, there's some pretty gruesome news from Saudi Arabia. Should we talk about that?
Bring it in. Bring it in.
All right. So Adnan Khashoggi was a Syrian journalist who was critical of the Syrian regime. And he lived in the United States, and he wrote for the Washington Post, a paper which Trump which is probably Trump's second least favorite paper after the New York Times. So he was in Turkey, and he entered the Turkish consulate and never came out. And there was actually someone, there was a decoy that emerged in his clothing, but he was not Khashoggi. And so it was tracked down that 15 members of the elite Saudi military guard had been in Turkey for a day. They came in the day before and left like the day after. And Khashoggi wore an Apple Watch, so he was
funny. The way you just pulled in the apple. I'm just sorry.
It's okay. I know. I mean, I think it's definitely. I mean, I'm still new at this. It's like you need to. It's hard to just keep talking about serious stuff sometimes.
Right.
So anyway, he recorded. The audio of him being tortured to death was in the cloud.
Wow.
He recorded himself being tortured to death.
Mm.
And yeah, he was mutilated. And he was like attacked with a buzz chainsaw while he was alive, and yeah, it was just horrendous. So his body hasn't been found. So we moved along. So things were moving along. Like, of course, first Saudi Arabia denied any part of it, and then one of the things they tried to say was that it was an accident and Khashoggi died in a fist fight. So yeah, here we have a 60-year-old journalist died in a fist fight with 15 members of the Saudi military elite. I mean, so it's very destabilizing because it means. It's said that it means they knew they could get away with it because Trump wasn't going to do anything.
Right,
because,
they knew.
Yeah, they knew. And the Saudi crown prince has been in the U.S. a lot. He's tried to bring in a lot of investors to Saudi Arabia. He's trying to modernize things a little, like slowly, like women can finally drive. But he's been trying to put across the image of Saudi Arabia being more modern and westernized. Then something like this happens. So it just shows they don't give a fuck, that he can do whatever he wants. And the problem with situations like this was, okay, even if it wasn't the crown, and so then it was said that the crown prince didn't know anything about it. So if he didn't know anything about it, then that means that there's a very strong rebel faction in their government, whatever, in their monarchy. So that's bad too. So, and then Turkey is a NATO country, so it was just brazen to do this, and to do this in an embassy. I mean, embassies are supposed to be neutral places. You're supposed to be able to, and they're places for legal things to happen. You're supposed to enter an embassy for things to be official. So that they're supposed to be like a neutral ground. So that's all pretty bad and pretty creepy. Khashoggi's son was shown shaking hands with the crown prince, looking very mad. Earlier this evening, I saw that the crown prince may have stepped down. The king may have made the count.
Oh.
During the break, I'm going to look it up and see if that actually happened. I'm not sure. I just seen like one article that wasn't confirmed yet. But it's bad. And then and then CNN was just evacuated, and with bomb threats, and it's just an attack on the press. It's an attack on freedom of expression, and anything in the I wouldn't compare any CNN reporters to. Well, there's some pretty good ones. I'm not. I think that there's reporters who definitely get really carried away with how important they are, and they talk like they're fighting for press freedom, but it's all about them. I think that there's definitely reporters that have gotten to be that way about Trump. They feel like, and I feel like the New York Times it's like they're not making any difference. All they're doing is just telling their audience, finding more information about how bad Trump is for their audience. So, anyway, it's bad. Rest in peace, Mr. Khashoggi. You did not deserve that, and nobody does. And he was somebody that really tried to do the right thing and really put himself on the line and took risks to do the right thing. So, hey, Gabriel. Okay, so that's what's going on with the press, with some of the press. I don't know, they were narrowing in on Florida for some of the bombs today. I don't know if we're getting any closer to that.
So they still haven't found out who. Man, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's really.
I don't know what to say on that. That's weird. All of them were Democrats too.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Biden, Obama, the Clintons, Maxine Waters, George Soros,
Robert De Niro.
Who? Oh, Robert De Niro.
That was just crazy.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Right.
Yeah, it's really creepy. I mean, it's a creepy selection. I don't know. I mean, it's bad no matter what, but it just makes me wonder, what is this person saying? What are they saying by selecting De Niro? And I don't know. I wonder if it's because of Taxi. I wonder if it also has something to do with Taxi Driver.
Why do you think it would be Taxi Driver's movie?
You remember the movie? Well, you know what the
I
movie
know the movie.
Because his character tried to had a dream to shoot the president.
So you think it had some? You think they went that far?
I wonder if I'm wondering why they picked De Niro out of the many celebrities who are anti-Trump.
Right.
Why De Niro? That's all. That's just what I thought of. So I don't know. It's I mean. Just why? I mean, I was watching some of the I was just watching some of the rallies, and man, nothing's changing. Nothing is changing for those guys. They're just they think he's great. They think he's doing a great job. So, man. Okay.
Trumpites.
Yeah, that's right. So we're sending our good wishes to the press and to anyone trying to speak out. There's certainly been a lot of harassment of candidates, particularly women candidates, and that's just bad. So, okay, so we've gone through most of our countries that we cover. We're getting there. Okay, so we talk a lot about the International Criminal Court. Oh, okay, and then one of the things, before I'll get to what I was just looking at is the trial has begun for Dominic Ongwen, who was a rebel commander in Uganda, and he was kidnapped when he was about 12 and was a child soldier and then became a commander. So hopefully there will be, it might be brought up that, that he was a child soldier and that he didn't know any better. And so there's been, and then interestingly, so far as we've been talking about the election in DR Congo, and that Jean-Pierre Bemba, who was released by the International Criminal Court, is now running for president, is back in the country. So that's kind of strange. So the president of Sudan is Omar al-Bashir, and he has been wanted by the International Criminal Court for years. And so he is traveling and he's not being arrested. And so the problem is, even by countries that have signed on to the International Criminal Court, the United States has not signed on to the International Criminal Court, by the way. So there's the International Criminal Court doesn't have a police force or anything, and so it means it's voluntary for any of these people can kind of freely go about, even though they're wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. So, that's bad. And in South Sudan, which we follow, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar are getting along. Last I checked, and so now the United Nations wants to convene a panel about war crimes committed in crimes against humanity committed in South Sudan over the past 5 years, since Riek Machar started his rebellion again. So it's kind of strange. I think that they should take their time. I do not think it would be helpful to do that now. They should wait until things are more peaceful. They just struck a peace deal,
right.
And if you start going back and going over everything, it's just gonna flare up.
Right. I agree.
So we're really hoping that the peace will be maintained in South Sudan, and we're gonna keep following it, which as we do. And so, okay, I think it's time for another break.
Let's do it. This is Anna's Historical Book Club.
Book Club. Roselle's doing the music tonight. We will be back.